Now, the whole reason you bring data into Power Query is because you want to transform or manipulate that data. So I now want to look at how we can shape the data that we've brought into Power Query. Let's start with the bike products by month query. You can see here the data that was brought in from that CSV file. You can see on the right hand side the steps are simply to find the source and then to bring in the data and change the types. But some of the things I look at here are the first 3 rows are not needed. So I want to delete the first 3 top rows. If you wish to delete rows, you have a button up here called Remove Rows. And you can delete top rows, bottom rows, alternate rows, or rows that contain duplicates, rows that are blank, or rows that contain errors. So really handy manipulation options here. I'm going to remove top rows. And the number of top rows I'd like to remove are 3. So I'll give it the number 3 and OK. And as you can see quite clearly, the 3 top rows have gone, and that step is mentioned here. If I don't want to do that, effectively I want to undo what I've just done, then just click this X and you will delete that step. And then if I redo that, remove rows, top rows, and the 3 top rows, that step will then reappear in my list of steps that have been done to manipulate the data. Now the other thing is some of these steps have a little cog or a little gear wheel. If we click this, we can actually get into the settings and we can change our mind about the number of rows that we actually removed. So it's like reverse back into that step, but I'll go cancel. So removing rows is an option. Now the next thing I want to do or have a look at is I want to look at promoting the headers. This first row contains January, February, March, April, and really these are the column headers. So to make these column headers, we click this button, Use First Row as Headers, and that lifts January, February, March, and April up to the top, making them column headers, and we've promoted the headers basically. Another thing that you can do is you might decide that you want to select columns, and you can select columns just by clicking 1, 2, 3. And if you wanted to select a variety of columns, you could hold the Control key and click a variety of columns. If you wanted a range of columns, you would click the first one and shift click the last one, and that will give you a range of columns. And then another alternative is to choose this Choose Columns button. If I click the Choose Columns button, I can actually select from this list with the use of a tick those columns I want to select, or select all columns. So there's a variety of ways that you can select columns. You might select a column because you want to remove it. So I'm looking at this data and I'm thinking, actually I want to remove column 1. So I'm going to click on this column heading. I could hit that button, I could right click and I could choose Remove Column, or I could remove every other column except this column, or I could use this button to remove the column or every other column, or quite simply hit the delete key and you will remove the column, and it shows here my steps. Now I'm also looking here thinking, actually I don't need those 2 top rows, so I'm going to go back to remove rows, remove top rows, and I'd like to remove the 2 top rows, and OK. So we do eventually start manipulating and transforming this data so that it looks useful and we can work with it.